I'm because today just sucks.
The suicide rate up here is just unbelievable, and the connections that our students have with that.
Some of them have been dealt with some things that nobody should ever have to go through, let alone a 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old kid.
Our kids are dealing with a lot of trauma. There's addiction and drugs and poverty.
Adverse childhood experiences.
The suicidal ideation statistics were even more challenging when we looked at kids from Bad River, Ojibwe students, and then students that are identifying as LGBTQ.
There's a lot of bullying.
There's a lot of inequity.
It is heartbreaking when you see those barriers really get in the way of someone thriving who has a lot of potential.
23% of our students come from the Bad River tribe. We have another roughly 20% of our kids that come from Marengo Valley, which is a small community to the south. It's kind of a rural, agricultural-based community. And then about half of our kids come from Ashland.
Within our district alone, 65% are economically disadvantaged. Poverty plays a role in the challenges that our community faces.
The Bad River and Ashland community has gone through so much in the last few years.
We have students that have suffered severe traumas in their life.
The poverty and the drugs really bring down families.
I have students whose parents have committed suicide, parents who are mentally ill themselves and can't get out of bed, using drugs and alcohol and aren't present for them at home. And the students that I work with here are 11 to 14, and they're the adults in the family.
Not wanting to be at school, negative self-statements, severe depression at times in second grade.
Evidence of depression coming in at 35%. Students who are seriously considering suicide at around 20%. Those numbers are really high and really painful.
We've had a suicide from someone either in town or someone that was in town for most of their life every year. Or at least a big attempt.
Or we have someone who dies in school.
Go kill yourself. I don't know how many kids I've said, well, this kid told me to do that. When did that become a normal insult?
Like, I have these kids, they text me and they're like, hey, you should probably kill yourself. And I'm like, what? And it's really hard to tell when someone's being serious or not. Suicide is such a joke nowadays. You can tell it's a joke sometimes, but like, they're still kind of serious when they say it. Like, you're joking, you're like, I'm gonna Kermit. That's things people like, it's a joke, it's a meme, but like, those people are going through struggles and they handle it by going like,
It's bullying. In middle school, it's been physical. High school, it's psychological bullying, tearing people down psychologically, emotionally.
Mentally, there's times I think where kids aren't safe. Some of the cyberbullying, the easiest access to be able to just type out something really mean and walk away from it and not have to face somebody. A high level of the conflict that even just occurs in this building was started or fueled through social media.
Even just racism. I feel like a lot of it's the tension between Ashland and Bad River. It turns pretty ugly, and like the tension starts to get to a point that nobody really wants to be around it. It would be nice if we could all kind of push it away for long enough to get through school even, but we don't.
Looking at the history of what my grandparents and great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents have been through.
Hardcore historical trauma, that's something that needs to be explored even further. I think we need to look at the curriculum.
It's not acknowledged in schools today.
You don't want to have those courageous conversations, making sure everyone identifies and knows it happened.
It's hard to be an Indigenous person in the school system.
To walk into a space where you don't see a lot of people that look like you, gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual. Where are they in our textbooks? Where are they in our discussions? And that's where having like the gay-straight alliance is really an important thing.
There's kids that we've lost. I feel like in some ways they didn't get what they needed. We owe it to those kids to do better.
My job today is working with the kids that have nothing else outside of school.
I'm a parent, I'm counselor, I'm educator.
Everything is landing on the school system. They come here for their meals. I mean, we have the dental clinic that comes in, we have mental health clinic that comes in. You know, a lot of those things that people used to get outside of school takes out of those academic times
There's a lot of pressure for us to perform, to have test scores high. And yet the irony is, if we don't do these things first, those test scores will never raise.
You know, I don't think everybody realizes that impact of childhood trauma, what that really can do. It really truly changes the brain.
If a person's internal social emotional self is dysregulated, in turmoil, in trauma, they will not get to academics.
Without good mental health, I don't feel like I can get anything done.
We can't expect kids who are experiencing severe depression or crippling anxiety, or even just worrying about, you know, is my little brother at home safe, to have those sorts of things on their plate and then try to pay attention to algebra or reading. And that's another kind of equity lens, that not every student has the same access to learning because of what's going on in their mind or their body or their world.
Not treating them as if they're not paying attention during your math lesson, they're doing something wrong. Maybe there's something going on underlying that's causing them to be distracted that you have no idea about. Being a trauma-sensitive educator is recognizing that and honoring that.
I would hope that all children could walk into our buildings and be happy and be ready to learn. That they wouldn't have all the baggage, that they wouldn't have all the trauma. They would just be little sponges and soak it all up. They would have room for it. Because right now, a lot of our students, they just don't have room to learn.